Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com. Hey, JB.
What's up, Chris?
You're midway through the preseason now. 2 more preseason games left. What message are you trying to get across to the guys with 2 more left?
I mean, just, where we have to go. It's on us as coaches, them as players, but we're learning each other right now, right? Like when you introduce new personnel, as a coaching staff, like you can watch as much film as you want to. You got to get around guys. You got to get a close-up view. And then you put them on the floor, put them in situations against other teams, and then you learn the tweaks that you need to make. Your training camp so far, we've been about a week in. So asking, people to learn and pick up brand new things at NBA speed is not easy. Those things will take some time, but, it's on us to figure out how we make it easier for them so that we can, get good at it and be the team that we want to be.
What did you take away from this one tonight?
Again, there's certain, things that we got to continue to work on. I think, the guarding the dribble drive and penetration. I thought Orlando did a great job of just being aggressive, whether it was in transition or in the half court or putting the ball on the floor and trying to get into our paint. So we, as a unit have to, just shore that up. One, it's obviously the competition on the ball, but then it's now figuring out the schemes behind it. Obviously being without Jarrett is a difference maker, right? Like the combination of what we've seen from him and Evan in the paint, is one of the reasons why we were able to do what we did, defensively last year. So, we have to make some adjustments there. But again, we're not far away from where we want to be. Just expect guys to take some time to figure out, all the small things. And that's the difficult thing is like you want to rush it. But there's so many small things that make such a big difference. And, in a week's time, it's difficult to pick up all those things. So we'll keep plugging, and we'll just keep getting better.
Spencer Davies, Cavs Insider, SI Media Group. We haven't talked about Dean a whole lot this training camp. Seems like he looks a little bit healthier. Has gotten some opportunities there to shoot the ball and also on the defensive end. What have you liked from it so far?
I mean, we've had, a lot of love for Dean for a long time. Dean, has size. He has shot-making ability, and he can guard multiple positions. He can move his feet, keep people in front of him. He can switch on to smaller guys. It's our responsibility and his teammates' responsibility to continue to foster his confidence. But, he is an asset for us, and he's someone who can help us play the style that we want to play. Dean's the type of guy, he never complains. You never hear from him, and he just goes out and does the job. I'm excited and I'm glad, that he's making shots and playing with confidence. And again, it's our responsibility to try to find ways to get him on the floor so he can continue to help us.
Sound like a broken record asking you this, but when you actually see it in person, how much attention Max draws and what George does with the spacing, what is that for you as a coach for maybe not having that kind of luxury in the past and having it now? What does that do for you guys as an offense, just in your confidence?
I mean, it makes you, you can be more dynamic. You don't have to be as stagnant. But even in that, there's lessons to be learned there, right? Like when those guys are moving and they're creating gravity, the guy with the ball in his hand has to get comfortable enough to know what they're going to do and where they're going to go and where they're going to be as outlets. So, it's a good problem to have, and there's so much benefit to it. But again, it's just part of the process of us learning one another and learning how we play together.
Sam and Miko Hoopswire. JB, when you talk about some of the small things, maybe some of the familiarity, is that what you mean by that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's, to some guys who are playing important roles in minutes, we're teaching nuances of, what we do on both sides of the ball. And, with the added pieces, we're teaching new things to a lot of people on the offensive end of the floor. Again, last year, we played a ton of pick and roll, right? We were elite in the pick and roll, and we don't want to lose that. But, at this moment, we're trying to implement some things where, we're a little more dynamic and harder to guard, and our pick and roll players, get the ball off movement and those types of things. So now as the season progresses and people want to just, solo in on one thing, there's options and ways out of it to make it more difficult for them to do that. So, the NBA, with the level of talent and skill in this thing, the difference is like, this much, right? So every single day we got to continue to get that much better. And then, what's not easy is you got to go out and do it against live NBA competition. So again, there's bumps in that. And then, how do you handle adversity to be willing to keep doing it even through the tough times so you can be as good as you want to be at the time you need to be your best.
Brendan Gula, Cavs Insider, SI Media Group. You took 19 foul shots tonight. I guess I want to ask about free throws because it seems like there's more of an emphasis on shooting the three ball. And if you're shooting more threes, you're probably less likely to shoot more free throws. I know you're not like coaching to a number, but is there a number of free throws that you want to feel like, hey, we're kind of getting to this number of foul shots per game?
It's bigger than the free throw attempt itself. Like, we want our offense to start with penetration, right? Like, that penetration is what typically leads to fouls. A lot of jump shooters don't get fouled. Our aim is to put as much pressure on the paint as we can. Teams want to give us layups from that, we'll take those layups. The spacing on the floor, that leads to the kickouts, and then the three-point shots are available. So, this isn't a come down, move it around the perimeter, shoot a three, right? This is a attack-minded, get to the paint, draw the defense, and then make the right next basketball play. The more we touch the paint, the more we'll get fouled, and the more we'll create open threes. So it's not about, like you said, a number. It's more about a style, right? And that style has to be aggressive, getting to the paint, and then making the next one.
How would you evaluate both in camp and through 2 games what you've seen from Damien so far?
Again, I think he's learning, to be honest with you, and to be fair to him. The responsibilities of that position, it's immense, right? Like, we count so much on our 4s and 5s, both sides of the ball to protect, right? And being in the right spot. And, now you're learning to play with, 2 different types of guards, right? Darius and Donovan both play the pick and roll, but they play it differently. Now you got to learn that, right? Then defensively, how we use our 5 to protect the paint, isn't, NBA typical. Right, so now he's learning that, but he's picking it up quickly. His effort's been great. His want to has been great. He's asking the right questions. So he's working his way to get it.
Evan and Chris.
Evan Damaro right down equally. JB, 3 of the 5 starters, I believe it was Donovan, Max, and Evan played in the start of the second half. Was that just a minutes thing, or just looking at different lineups?
No, we wanted to press those guys, and we wanted them to play minutes tonight. We're kind of looking at this, as a ramp up, and then again from now to Friday, we have, a little more than to next Friday, a little bit more than a week's time where we can manage that next week, and then obviously into Wednesday. So it's a ramp up of how we're trying to get there. There is the strain of NBA minutes on legs and jump shots and all those things, but putting guys in position to get that out early as opposed to the start of the season when, again, we want to play faster, still got to guard, still got to be able to make shots and have your legs. So this is something that, we're working through, but the plan is to have us as sharp as we can be when the season starts, that Wednesday.
Preseason and training camp for you guys, but we touched on the 3-point attempts before the game, but overall, what is your evaluation on just how your team is taking the new offensive approach you guys are implementing?
I think, again, it's a work in progress, and they're learning the when and wheres, and I'm looking at it again. We shot 44 threes, and I feel like we could have created quite a few more, but we played in a crowd, turned the ball over when we had outlets that were there to be made. And, again, that's just a learning thing of consistency. And, for our guys, like last year they had to play in a lot of tight spaces, right? So getting comfortable playing where that spacing is and being able to make those plays, like that's just going to loosen it up, and that's just habits that we have to build.
Last one, Chris.
JB, going back to Dean for a second, George is here now, and there are some stylistic and positional similarities between the two guys. Is there room for Dean to get minutes in your rotation right now?
Yeah, I mean, all those guys got to go out and they got to earn those minutes. The thing with Dean is Dean has the ability to play multiple positions. Like, there's no reason why he can't play alongside George. Like, we've seen Dean play the 3 and be successful and help both sides of the ball. So, again, it's our responsibility to put the best units on the floor. And if Dean is, one of those guys that, presents the best unit, it's our job to get him out there.